The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
The other story, and of course, again, we're watching lights light up here. Did the parents of former Weather Underground terrorist Bill Ayers help finance Barack Obama's Harvard education? And there's a retired U.S. Postal Service carrier. You can see him, KHOW.com. You make up your mind. Is this guy telling you the truth? His name is Alan Halton, and he is a retired U.S. Postal Service carrier. He delivered mail to Tom and Mary Ayers. Of course, these are the parents of Bill Ayers, the terrorist. And he's in 1980s and 1990s and claims to have met Barack Obama. And his name is Alan Halton, and he was commended for 39 years of honorable service with the post office. He's given sworn affidavits. Halton said in conversations with Mary Ayers on his route, he learned of the enthusiasm and support for this young foreign student. And this goes like this: on a bright, warm Chicagoland day, he met a student who fit Mary Ayers' description of Ayers. And, of course, no, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you what, he is like the FBI. He doesn't ever give up. And he has done remarkable work. Ph.D., Dr. Jerry Corsi, Harvard Ph.D., and he joins us. And, boy, I watch these videos. This is amazing stuff. Jerry, good morning.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Well, the better question is, how are you, and how did all this come down? And for the audience, tell them what's going on.
Well, we had a story in WND. It's been running for the last 2 days. Got picked up on Drudge. A postman who delivered mail to the Bill Ayers family, the Weather Underground bomber in Glen Ellen, Illinois, outside of Chicago. We got his story, and Sheriff Arpaio found the guy, has an affidavit. I went out and interviewed the guy, put it on video. Mrs. Ayers told him in about 1989, when Obama was in Harvard Law School, that the Ayers family, the mother and father, were helping Obama. They were funding his law school education, and that he was a foreign student. And then the postman met Obama. Obama came at one summer. The summer he was an intern in Chicago at a law firm that Mr. Ayers set him up at. And Obama came to Glen Ellen to thank the Ayers family for funding his education. The postman met him, and Obama again repeated the story personally to the postman that he was being helped with his education by the Ayers family, and that he was going to be president. So you had a foreign student being funded by the Ayers family, radical underground bomber Bill Ayers, their son, and that he was going to be president. The postman had firsthand testimony because he met Obama. We have it on tape, and we have an affidavit from it. It's a very explosive story.
What is it that Alan Halton tells you? And by the way, it's up at KHOW.com. You make up your own mind, as we say all the time. But what is it, and how long did you spend with Mr. Halton?
I flew out there. I spent almost the entire day with him. I recorded him. Alan Halton was a postman for 39 years. He carried mail in the Chicago area. He worked in Glen Ellen, the suburb right outside of Chicago. And if you listen to him, Alan Halton's a very believable guy. I mean, this is not a high-powered guy or a big ego guy. This guy who really does look and sound like a postman. And when he told me the story, and you can see him telling it to me, of how he met the Ayers family, knew them, he delivered mail to them every day, how Mrs. Ayers said that the family was helping this black foreign student. Foreign's
important here.
School.
Did he know
Foreign's important.
Did he ask or say what country that it was?
Yes, and he said he thought it was Indonesia. Foreign student, not from Canada, but from Indonesia. And that makes sense because Obama was, as a child, he was in Indonesia for 4 years, and he did attend school as an Indonesian citizen, as a Muslim, as Barry Soetoro, even under a different name, the name of his stepfather, the surname of his stepfather. And it would make sense that, this was a foreign student from Indonesia, which is what we suspected is the reason why we can't get Obama's school records.
Or passport records.
Or his passport records, because Very possibly he had an Indonesian passport. Very possibly he went to Pakistan from Occidental College on an Indonesian passport, which would have been a lot easier than to go on a U.S. passport in 1980, which is about when he went to Indonesia, into Pakistan, that is. And he went to Indonesia first, then to India, and then to Pakistan. So he could have picked up or renewed a passport in Indonesia when he was a child.
Remember, he claims.
Again,
Remember, in his book, he claims he went to see his mother. And later, in a speech he said in San Francisco, he went to see his mother, and his mother, of course, wasn't there. So he's lying about seeing his mother. She was no longer there. She was back in Hawaii. And so if he went to Indonesia, was it to renew his passport? There was no reason to go there. His claim was, I went to see my mother, which, of course, is a false claim.
And then they went to India.
That's exactly, yes.
And India is also a good way to get into Pakistan from India, especially if you've got an Indonesian passport. Coming into Pakistan in the early 1980s with a U.S. passport would have been very difficult. That was the years in which the Soviet Union then was invading Afghanistan. And it would have been very difficult to come in. I mean, it was possible, but in Pakistan they would have wondered what was a U.S. citizen doing coming into Pakistan at that time. He certainly would have been noticed and followed and interrogated. If he came in with an Indonesian passport,
he would have been fine.
Pakistan, be fine.
All right, let's back this one up. Jerome Corsi is with us. Please, our website, khow.com, the hard work of Dr. Corsi, the video of this mailman, and he's retired from the Postal Service. He delivered mail to Tom and Mary Ayers. Why? Again, for the audience, who are Tom and Mary Ayers?
They're the parents of Bill Ayers, the Weather Underground bomber. And Tom Ayers, at the time, he had been the president of Consolidated Edison, the major electric utility in Chicago.
Ayers came from a very, I've read Ayers' life. He was one of the radical chic. And he was a very wealthy family, and yet he himself becomes this crazy leftist.
Yes, in fact, the Postman had a conversation with Tom Ayers, and Tom Ayers himself was very much of a leftist. He said he sounded like a Marxist, even though he was the head of Con Edison, asking the Postman why he wasn't upset about his work conditions and other issues of that nature. And a very leftist family, a limousine kind of leftist.
Yeah, that's what do they call them, limousine liberals.
Limousine liberals.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ayers would have been a limousine liberal, a rich family, but yet extreme radical, and to the point where he was participating in bombings and killing police and all kinds of other
bank jobs,
robbing banks, And then, for almost 10 years, I believe, Bill Ayers was on the lam, hiding out. His book, Fugitive Days, describes Bill Ayers' kind of almost autobiographical account.
And remember,
running from the police.
Was it you or who did the piece where Obama, when they confront him about Bill Ayers, he dismisses that as just some guy who lived in my neighborhood, and of course that was an unbelievable lie.
Yeah, I covered that when I wrote The Abomination.
That was you, okay.
In fact, he said he lived in my neighborhood and taught English. Well, Bill Ayers was not an English professor. He was he was a professor at the University of Chicago, but his specialty was education. And it wasn't just some kid where, I think Obama also said their kids went to school together.
Yes.
Well, Obama's kids were little girls, and, Ayers' kids were grown up.
And they're adults, right.
And they never possibly went to school together. It looks like the Ayers family knew Obama in 1988. We traced it back to, which would have been the last year Barack Obama was a community organizer in Chicago. They worked together, Obama and the Ayers family worked together to try to introduce these learning councils into the public schools. They're trying to, basically socialize the public schools to create these panels to make sure that the minority kids got through with, equal or greater advantages. At any rate, that would predate Obama going to Harvard. It would make sense that the Ayers family funded Obama into Harvard. We've always wondered who paid for Obama.
Remember, you can't see any of these documents. These are all suppressed documents.
You're right. Obama will not show his school records, his passport records.
None of it.
None of it. We don't have
Won't
his
see
grades.
medical records. Won't see them either.
We can't see his medical records. And it's all because we think that this is the truth. In other words, that he was a foreign student, which would have disqualified him from being president.
And as you point out, again, I urge everyone, KHOW.com, watch it for yourself. Tell me what you think of Alan Halton. But he said Mary Ayres referred to, quote, this young black student they were helping as a foreign student.
Right. And that's, I think, the way, Obama presented himself and probably was registered. We don't know, again, we can't see the records, maybe at Occidental College, maybe at Columbia.
As what or as whom?
As a foreign student.
Right,
and what name? Was he registered Barry Soetoro?
Right.
Or Barack Obama? Again, if you use the name Soetoro, which was his stepfather in Indonesia, it would be an indication that Barack Obama was assuming an Indonesian nationality, at least for a part of his life. That would compromise him as a natural-born citizen, and he would not be eligible to be president of the United States.
The interesting thing, again, with Dr. Corsi here, let me read you a quick email, sir, to put you on hold. I got a break. Pete, I was a postman. I was then a postal supervisor and a manager before I left the United States Postal Service. No one knows more about you and your life than the mailman. He knows way more than anyone realizes. It's an interesting email. Interesting email. Can I put you on hold, sir? Hang on a second.
Sure.
Dr. Jerry Corsi, here's what I would urge you to do. Our website is KHOW.com. Watch this video of retired postman Alan Halton and tell me what you think. He's talking about the Ayres family and Barack Obama. What do you think?
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.